Hi everyone, Daljeet Peterson here with astrolab21.com. Welcome to the end of 2020, and the topic of this video is basically what's next, the astrology of 2021. Of course, we're all ready to close the books on 2020, this crazy, intense year that we've all had to endure and suffer through, and a lot of us are just ready to say, good riddance, stick a fork in it, it's done. What's next? Can we finally move on? Can we get back to a sense of normalcy in this new year to come? Is there more of the same? What's going on? And this is where astrology really can be a very useful tool for us, because it gives us the ability to look ahead and really see what are the planetary configurations that are going to present themselves in 2021? How do we assess them based on what happened over the course of 2020? So we're going to dive into all of that in turn. But I just want to start by giving a little bit of a recap of how we got to where we are, because a lot of the energies and the patterns that are going to play out in 2021 are a continuation and in some ways a reformulation of some of the things that we did experience during the course of the year of 2020. And there were really two major configurations that we witnessed in 2020, and it was the reason why so many astrologers like myself had been looking forward to 2020 with a little bit of trepidation. There was some anxiety about what this year would present, because what we saw from afar was that there was a particular configuration, which is the cycle of Saturn conjuncting Pluto, which happens about every 30 years. And this cycle is closely linked with periods of difficulty, periods of strife. These are two very challenging archetypes, and when they combine, as they do once every 30 years, we typically see very difficult circumstances presenting themselves in the world. They're associated with war and strife and terrorism and outbreaks of disease and pandemics, indeed. One of the last configurations was in the early 80s, and it happened to coincide with the outbreak of the AIDS epidemic. There was a hard aspect between those two planets, I believe, with the great influenza, the Spanish flu that happened in the early 1900s. So as astrologers, we were looking forward to 2020 and knew that we had not only the conjunction of Saturn and Pluto, but also we would have Jupiter joining in a triple conjunction, all occurring in the sign of Capricorn. And what is the sign of Capricorn? That's all about the very structure of society. Capricorn rules all of the systems that make up a functioning society. So political systems, financial systems, medical systems, food and agricultural systems, communication systems, all of these big institutional systems are ruled by the sign of Capricorn. And whenever Pluto transits through a sign, what it wants to do is it's going to try to transform any outmoded systems that are no longer serving the evolving needs. So with Pluto transiting through Capricorn, as it has been doing since 2008, and its beginning of its time in Capricorn coincided exactly with the financial crisis that resulted in the Great Recession of that year. So it really was a signal that this was going to be a really challenging period of Pluto in Capricorn, really forcing us to sort of reconfigure and reformulate and revise and reform a lot of our social structures. And, we really missed an opportunity, I think a lot of people would agree, during that financial crisis to really reform the banking system. But we didn't. We ended up putting a $1 trillion Band-Aid on what was a really deep systemic problem, and have tried to kick the can down the road, so to speak. And I think some of those, the reality of that decision or indecision is is coming home to roost here in 2020. So, of course, astrologically speaking, you saw, okay, we've got Pluto in Capricorn, then we've got Saturn coming around in 2020, and Jupiter. So this was like a triple transit configuration that really was what caused a lot of the hardship that we experienced in 2020. You had Pluto, which was this very destructive aspect of the disease, the pandemic itself. You had Jupiter, which brought its global expansion. It spread this thing around the world with a rapid pace. And then you had Saturn, which represented the restrictions, the limits, the confinement, as well as the suffering and the great loss of life that we experienced over the course of this year. So, very challenging aspect, something I've called, the Great Capricorn Challenge of 2020. I did an in-depth video on it, and I'll put some links to that in the description below, as well as we'll pop it up here in case you haven't seen it. Really great to sort of give you the framework for what was the astrological motivation behind 2020. And then that got bookended with what we just recently experienced, which there's still a lot of buzz around, which is this great conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn that occurred in Aquarius on the winter solstice just last week. Became known popularly in the media as the Christmas star, and it was sort of this literal symbol of hope, this beacon of hope that appeared in the nighttime sky in the few days before Christmas. And it's a really rare, sort of once-in-a-lifetime astronomical phenomenon where the two largest planets in our solar system that are visible, Jupiter and Saturn, appeared together in the sky and kind of looked like one big star for a few days. And as astrologers, when we look at where that occurred, that portion of the sky is 0 degrees of Aquarius. And so we can interpret that astrologically as symbolizing a new beginning, this new era that is begun in the sign of Aquarius. And again, I did a very in-depth video on that, the Great Conjunction of 2020. Also, I'll have a link to that in the description below, and we'll pop it up here in case you want to take a look at that. And so those two events really were kind of cosmic bookends to this year of 2020. So we had difficulty, challenge, despair, suffering, Capricorn, and then we had this glimmer of hope, something new, a new period beginning, Aquarius. And so as we end 2020, we're sort of in this crossroads. And we are indeed ready to move into a new future. And I think that's why a lot of people are excited and enthusiastic about starting 2021. Certainly exacerbated by the fact that we just want to get the hell out of 2020 and just wipe the slate clean if we can. And like I said, we will have that opportunity. There's a lot of energy moving forward as we begin the year. But I just want to remind everyone we do still have some unfinished business with Pluto remaining in the sign of Capricorn for another 3 years. So a lot of this Aquarian energy that we're all experiencing to start the year is certainly a welcome relief, some hope, some optimism, some forward momentum. But we do have to do we have some work left to do with Capricorn. So that's the basis of where we are. Now let's look forward and see what are the major configurations that we are going to be encountering in 2021. Okay, so the big configuration of 2021 is going to be, there's a year-long square between Saturn and Uranus. And this is really going to set the tone for the entire year. So as we just talked about, Saturn moving into Aquarius, where it's going to spend 2.5 years. Uranus is in Taurus, where it's been since 2018. And so basically, these two energies will be in a square alignment, which is often a very difficult configuration. And when we consider what these two planets represent, they are really somewhat antithetical to each other. On the one hand, you have Saturn, which is all about limits and constriction. It's very conservative. It's very focused on the past. It is more comfortable in the known, in the predictable, in the practical. And on the other hand, you have Uranus, which is really the polar opposite. Uranus is about the future. Uranus wants to break free of all the boundaries. It wants freedom from the known, as the great astrologer Jeffrey Wolf Green once described Uranus, which I've always loved, right? Freedom from the known. It's okay with the unknown, with the uncertain, with the future, with what hasn't happened yet. It wants to explore new territory. So already we can see there's a real tension between these two archetypes that's just going to be exacerbated by the fact that they're in a square formation. And then we consider the signs that they're each in is going to tell us, well, how is this square energy going to manifest? So here we have Saturn moving into Aquarius, which is going to try to build some very practical frameworks for some very innovative ways of being. You know, Aquarius is a very socially oriented and a very innovative, focused, future-oriented sign. And interestingly, Uranus rules Aquarius. So we have this sort of mutual receptivity going on here. The fact that Saturn is coming to do Uranus's bidding in some ways, even though, you know, it's a traditional ruler, ironically, of Aquarius. So it's a side of Saturn that maybe we haven't seen and don't expect, particularly after it spent the last 2.5 years in Capricorn, which it does rule, which it is very comfortable in, right? All of the rules and regulations and authority and law and order and the past. You know, I think that's what we saw in 2020 was this sense that something old was dying and something new is trying to be born. But there's a real tension that we're experiencing in our cultures and, you know, probably within ourselves right now. We're maybe have one. There's this sense I feel like we're straddling a chasm, right? We have one foot in the past and one foot in the future, and this chasm is widening, you know, right below our feet. And so we're having a choice that we all have to make. You know, are we ready to jump forward into the future, into Aquarius, into the Uranian energy? Or are we going to fall back into the past, into Saturn, into Capricorn, into the known, into the traditional, right? It's a kind of a choice. And then I think there's some amongst us who are trying to keep a foot in both worlds and sort of hedge their bets. You know, which way is this thing going to go? And that's probably an untenable position, because you're either going to get sort of stretched and torn in two, or you're just going to fall into the depths of the chasm. So we really have a choice to make. And what the stars are telling us, what the planetary alignments seem to be indicating and encouraging us, is it's time to move forward. It's time to make that leap of faith into a, you know, to quote Huxley, a brave new world. You know, Aquarius is the brave new world. And it's understandable that a lot of us have a lot of fear and trepidation. We aren't comfortable with the new. There's a lot of uncertainty on the horizon. With everything going on with AI and computer technology and changing so rapidly, there's a lot of people who are concerned about how fast it's moving and where it's going, and don't see a place for themselves in this new future. And it's a legitimate concern. But at the same time, I think we all do have this sort of intuitive sense that's percolating throughout our culture that, you know, it's just time. You know, these changes need to be made. And a lot of us are answering that call on individual levels, on a personal level. And that's, I think, you know, if there was a silver lining to 2020, it was that we all got to sort of jump off of the hamster wheel of the rat race of the modern life that we've been living, and really slow down and sort of assess what it is, that there was something calling us below that was a little more meaningful. How did we get more meaning into our lives? We got to, reconnect with our families in ways that we hadn't before. A lot of families were forced together through the lockdown and the shelter in place, and a lot of us got more time to explore some of our embodied practices, our spirituality, our health and wellness. We started new diets and exercise programs and yoga and meditation, and got out in nature and took advantage of what this new situation was offering us. And then a lot of people, really freaked out too, right? And sort of doubled down on the really destructive and addictive behaviors of drugs and alcohol and food addictions, and really got themselves into quite a mess. And it was probably, this is why astrology is so important. It's like, where was this Capricorn configuration occurring for you in your personal birth chart? So important to have that perspective. I knew going into 2020 that this was all going to take place in my second house of money and finances and resources. So I had been preparing for, not knowing what was coming, but knowing something was probably going to be pretty significant this year. I worked a lot of extra hours. I saved money just to sort of hedge my bets, because I knew my resources might be challenged at that time. So it's important to know where. This is why I always encourage people, figure out, get your own birth chart. Find an astrologer who can do a reading for you, so you know where these things are occurring for you personally. It's so important. And again, links below to my website if you are interested. I am doing, I'm taking on new clients. I will be doing readings, as many as I can do in the time I have in the coming weeks and months. But I would love to help you sort of chart your own blueprint, so that you can be armed and prepared for what is coming. So back to 2021, this Saturn and Uranus energy is really going to be the major theme. And so we're going to be forced to deal with those two planetary energies and with the two signs that they're moving in, Aquarius on the one hand, Taurus on the other. And this is, both of these signs are considered to be fixed signs, which means we're going to be dealing with a lot of fixed energy this year. And the fixed energies is about sort of consolidation. Fixed signs want to take what has been created and to be very productive. They want to put it to good use. They want to be practical. They want to be powerful. There's this sort of, this dynamo type of power to the fixed signs. So with Aquarius, we have fixed air, and with Taurus, we have fixed earth. So ideas coming into contact with physical, material things. One of the things that I think we can look at, which for certain we're going to see a lot of fluctuation, volatility, sudden changes in our monetary and financial systems, right? Because Taurus rules money and possessions, and it rules the stock market, it rules real estate to a degree, any value of assets, possessions. And with Uranus in that sign, Uranus is a very unpredictable, unstable energy. It can create very sudden bursts, sudden changes of direction. It's very unpredictable. It's like a lightning strike. So it's very likely that especially as these square configurations come into effect, we're going to get some very disruptive energies. As Saturn, the old guard and the structure, tries to maintain the old ways and will be begrudgingly moving towards reform. Aquarius, it's going to have to. Uranus and Taurus is going to come in and just really try to really stimulate these changes that are coming for us. So it's one of the themes that I think we want to be looking out for in 2021. And I'll be doing more videos as the year progresses, diving deeper into a lot of these specific issues. But I just want to, again, give you sort of the big picture of what we can expect from 2021. And that's really the big one. You know, we have Jupiter also, which is going to move through Aquarius quite quickly. And really, at the beginning of the year, all the planetary energies are moving forward. There's this real push of energy to sort of get out of the shadows. We had a lot of retrograding over the past second half of 2020. And with all the planets now moving forward, there is this real palpable energy that we are about to initiate a new stage, a new phase, a new age. And that really is all percolating through our collective culture, and we're all feeling it individually. And we would do well to manifest, to use this energy. So I'm encouraging everyone, if there's something that you've wanted to do, some new venture that you've wanted to start and maybe just haven't had the time or the wherewithal or weren't sure or were afraid to try new things, this is a time to try something new. Be inventive, be creative, be courageous. Don't be afraid to fail. You may stumble and fall. Get back up. Keep plugging away. Keep trying, because we do have this, Jupiter energy starting the year that really is going to move forward through Aquarius very rapidly, and it's going to bring its sort of positive, optimistic, expansive, fortunate type of energy with it. So lots of opportunities to be creative, to be inventive. And also, when we consider Aquarius, it's a very social sign. It rules all of our social connections, the social networks, our peer groups, our communities. So I would expect a great enhancement and expansion within our ability to connect with each other socially. It also rules, a more grassroots, bottom-up, peer-to-peer type of networked connections versus that top-down hierarchical Capricorn modality. And I talked about this quite a bit in the Great Conjunction video I did last month. But, really with Aquarius now, we are going, I think a lot of the protest movements, that emerged over the course of 2020 with Black Lives Matters, the Me Too movement, social justice warriors, they're going to get a big boost of energy from this move of particularly Jupiter moving into Aquarius for the first half of the year. And also with Saturn coming behind it, there's an opportunity to expand and to really solidify and to unify a message, to create and to connect in a way that really would strengthen and give a really powerful political voice that could affect some real change. And I think that's another message that I think this configuration is really showing us, is that it's time for people to get involved. We can no longer expect or defer our authority or our responsibilities to the authority figures, to the experts, to the politicians, to the people in power. I think if we learned anything from 2020, it was that no one's looking out for us, and no one really knows what's going on. And if they do, they're not really doing much about it. They're very self-serving and serving the interests of everyone but the people. So Aquarius is a very people-powered sign, and that's really getting boosted and supported by the configurations we're seeing in the skies over the early parts of 2021. So, if you've ever wanted to be involved in some of these more progressive social movements, this is a great time to reach out and connect with like-minded folks and see if you can, affect some changes. And it's going to occur at all levels. It's going to occur personally and individually. We'll see things happening at local levels. We'll see them happening at state and national levels, and also at a global level. You're going to see a lot of interconnection of organizations and new ways of communicating, expressing, and connecting that are really going to be revolutionary. We're going to start to see the beginning of what will become a new society, and it'll be interesting to see how it manifests and if it's even recognizable. A lot of this is going to be in a rather nascent form. It's in its embryonic stages, and there's going to be some 2 steps forward, 1 step back type of energy. Again, this square energy with Saturn and Uranus, expect that to really be a theme for the whole year of 2021. And like I said, I'm going to do some more videos. We'll dive deeper into that. We'll get some specific dates for you in the days and weeks to come. But again, setting intention for the new year, just want to get some of these bigger thematic issues top of your mind so that you can, really make a plan for what it is you want to accomplish in this year to come. Another major theme or configuration that's coming down for us in the year of 2021 will be the conjunction of Venus and Mars this summer. And this is a configuration I'm calling the Summer of Love 2021, because Venus and Mars are the 2 sort of lovers of the zodiac, and they're getting together in the sign of Leo, which is the sign of the lovers and love affairs and romance and sexuality. So expect a pretty steamy summer heating up right in the middle of July. And a lot of us hopefully will be able to be moving freely by then. We'll be able to have picnics and get outdoors and get to the beach and go out on hikes and socialize and travel again. So there'll be a lot of passion in the air this summer, and hopefully we'll all get a well-deserved sort of summer vacation. So that'll be interesting. Another major configuration is that Saturn is going to be doing this dance with the nodal axis for most of the year. So it's particularly going to be in trine with the North Node. And remember that the nodal axis is always sort of the past and the future, right? They move in tandem throughout the zodiac. They're in Gemini in the north, Sagittarius in the south, respectively. So with Saturn moving through Aquarius, there's going to be a nice air trine between the North Node in Gemini and Saturn in Aquarius. So again, it's reinforcing these themes that I think are going to play out over 2021, is this push-pull between past and future, right? And it's because of the trine with the North Node, Gemini, future, ideas, information, learning new ways of doing new things, future-oriented potentials. We're going to get a chance to learn new skills. A lot of maybe retraining, opportunities for job retraining. A lot of the jobs that may have been lost during the pandemic in 2020, now we have to find new ways of employment. We may start seeing some of that. And if you're someone who unfortunately has lost their livelihood, whose employment was adversely affected by the economic shutdowns of this year, look for those opportunities. They will present themselves to retrain, to relearn. Hopefully we'll get some stimulus in that regard. That only makes sense as we move into whatever this next level, this next phase is. And it is going to be a more technologically mediated, communication technology driven era that we're moving in. We've been on the cusp of this information age for the last 20 years or so, but really it's going to start accelerating now. We're going to see some really exponential growth in a lot of the computer technology, information technology. Of course, AI is here. Hopefully we can harness it and put it to the best use that serves humanity versus serving strictly profit motives. the old Capricorn way. Now we're moving into the Aquarian way. I'm optimistic that we'll start to put these technologies to better use, to more humanitarian efforts, because it's simply time. But again, as you know, we have to sort of demand it. We have to really take a much more active role in the society we live than we have in the past. We can't just be the passive consumers that we've been for the last 20 years. We're being called to be way more active, to participate in the process, to be a part of it, and then to affect that change collectively, right? This is really the message of 2021. And again, that Saturn trining the North Node is another supporting energy towards those ends. So hopefully we'll all get some opportunities to learn new things, to try new things, and to be more expressive and communicative in this year to come. So really, those are the handful of things. Those are the sort of the big picture 2021 configurations that we'll be negotiating and working with these energies as we come into 2021. And I really hope that this is what astrology can do for us. It allows us to see these patterns that are about to unfold. And it's like, they're like waves that are coming at us over the course of the year. And if you don't know the big waves are coming, well, you're going to get inundated, right? You're going to get washed to shore, or you're going to get dragged out by the riptide of the events. But if you're armed with the astrological perspective, and you know the wave is coming, well, you can paddle out and you can actually catch that wave. We can jump up on our boards and ride these waves of 2021 and really, like a Zen surfer, right? And then it's fun. Then you're on top of things, right? It's exciting. It's exhilarating, rather than struggling and panicking and taking in water and losing your breath and getting salt in your eyes. It's like getting scraped up by the coral or the reef. That's no fun, right? And I think a lot of us, that was what 2020 felt like. This tidal wave came out of nowhere and just crushed a lot of us. And we got tossed ashore or pulled out to sea. And so I think a lot of people are now a little more open to taking this astrological perspective, because it really is an incredibly helpful tool. I think those who went into 2020 with the mindset of the expectation of like, okay, let's brace for something, let's be alert and aware, certainly I think probably fared much better than those who did not. So if you're in that category and now you're like, okay, got the wake-up call, how can I prepare myself? I want to arm myself mentally and physically and emotionally and spiritually, financially. You want to be prepared for what's coming. And this is what the promise of astrology is, right? We're not saying we're going to predict the future. It's not what astrology is all about. That's a misnomer. What it does do really well is that it shows us the energy patterns that are present and gives us a way to navigate those energies, to use those energies in the most productive way possible, so that we can continue to grow and to evolve and to, fulfill our soul purpose. So 2021, it's coming, it's here. Let's set an intention. Let's ride the wave. Let's make a positive impact in our lives. Let's commit to doing something new. Let's commit to growth and expansion and the potential. Let's start to build this new world, that the opportunity that we have. Let's not squander it. Let's really, these are once in a lifetime configurations. There's something very special and magical about to happen in the world. And we're being called. There's sort of the leaders are being called. Who will emerge in the coming year and really help to lead people forward? Who are the visionaries? Who are the rebels? Who are the iconoclasts? Who are the inventors and the innovators? These are all very Aquarian qualities, and this is what this age of Aquarius is asking of us. And we all can participate. I always remind everyone, the collective is just that. It's a collection of individuals. It's what each of us does individually has an impact on the collective, on our entire communities, on our societies, on our culture, on our planet. So no deed is too small. And if we all can find our own way forward, we are going to affect great change on this planet. There's a real opportunity, and I hope that we can all leverage what the planetary alignments are offering us at this time. So set your intentions. Have a happy and safe new year. We'll see you on the other side in 2021, and we'll have a lot of guidance, a lot of videos. I'm going to be doing so much more in the new year. I'm super excited about what's happening with the channel this year, growing it. I'm doing a few new series that I'm going to be introducing in 2021. So once again, if you haven't already, hit the like and subscribe button. Also that notification bell. That way, as my new content comes out, you'll always get alerted to it, and you'll have it, because a lot of it is rather timely. Hopefully I'm going to be able to create a lot more quicker, shorter videos of things that are present, so that you can put them to good use in your own lives. I'm super committed to really helping out as much as I can in 2021 and beyond. So as always, I appreciate your time and your attention. I know it's valuable and it's precious. I appreciate you sharing this time with me. And yeah, until next time, Sat Nam, everyone.